Hey everybody, welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam, and I'm a real person. And today I want to talk to you about The Legend of Zelda, Four Swords Adventures for the GameCube. So up front, of course, you can go to www.thegrapplepit.net or go in the description to find the link to my written review of this if you'd rather, look at that instead of hear me. I also want to just bring up that there are a few games I wanted to do, and that I've played, but I can't really get footage for them or replay them right now because, I did have a Wii that I played the GameCube and Wii games on, but it broke, so... Ooh, stuff in my eyes. So, I couldn't replay them and get footage and stuff. But I still really wanted to talk about them because I still, I do remember them and I have opinions on them. Just know that I haven't played them in a little while, so if I do forget things and stuff, just know that that's why. Okay. Doesn't mean it's gonna be bad. Please don't leave. All right. So let's just get right to it. So, Four Swords Adventures is basically a big expansion on the idea of Four Swords, which was a multiplayer add-on for the Game Boy Advance port of A Link to the Past. But this is on the GameCube. And it's interesting because it can be played with 1 to 4 players. It's supposed to be played with 4 players, but here's the catch. You can play it single player with just a GameCube controller and use the screen. That's fine. But if you want to play with 2 to 4 players, you'll need to have people with connectors. You'll need to be able to have to have a Game Boy Advance and this weird connector thing that goes into your GameCube in order to be able to play, because there are certain parts in the game where you can go into houses and caves and stuff, and whenever you're in these underground areas, it instead goes onto the Game Boy Advance screen. And if there's multiple of you and going in different areas, of course, you can't just, change the big screen, because then some people will be off screen as I want to force people around. I didn't actually play it on multiplayer though, so I can't really speak too much on how that works. But that's basically the big thing that will keep you from maybe playing the game multiplayer, is that it's not exactly easy to find these connectors anymore. It's not a real common thing, and it wasn't used for a whole lot of games. So I can see why this game sort of went into obscurity, and I didn't hear many people talk about it. Now, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's sort of like some basic Zelda stuff, but it is super streamlined and geared towards, faster multiplayer play. So you can pick it up, play it, put it down if you want to, and you can continue your campaign with different amounts of players if, you can't get everyone together again to play it again and stuff. You can just keep going without them, and they can join in later whenever you start again. And it's kind of nice that way. As you go through, you'll do a lot of Zelda-type stuff, like you have a sword, and you can swing your sword at enemies, and you can get secondary items that are hanging out in the levels, which you can use to, fight off certain enemies, and you'll need them to complete certain puzzles in the levels. You also need to use the use of all 4 characters to complete these puzzles as well, so it's very interesting how these puzzles work, and having you, controlling these 4 different characters, trying to make everything work. It really relies on teamwork, or if you're playing by yourself, a lot of thinking. Because if you're playing solo, like I did, basically what you can do is, you control all 4 of them moving at the same time. Basically, you control one with the others trailing behind you, or you can put them into a set of different formations, like a straight line, or like a diamond, a plus sign, kind of thing. There's just a few set. I believe there's a square. So there's a few set formations you can put them in, which you're going to need to do for certain puzzles and for certain fights. There are bosses for you to fight in the game, as well as a recurring boss you'll need to defeat, which is basically like a Shadow Link. And a lot of the stuff also kind of revolves around colors as well, as each Link is differently colored. There's some puzzles to go through, some enemies to fight, and you can find, instead of rupees or hearts or anything, usually you're just going to go around and you'll be breaking pots, killing, minor enemies, and finding these pieces of, little triangles, I think, like pieces of the Triforce or something. Basically, you have to collect, I believe, something like 1,000 of them or something like that. I forget the exact number, sorry. But after you collect a certain number, you'll be super powered, and you're able to do a really awesome spin attack thing, and to just do more damage with your hits and everything. It really just powers you up, and it's awesome. So it kind of encourages you to still kind of explore these maps and everything. Although each level is just, like a level. It's separate. You go and you pick a level on the map, you go to that level, and you can explore it, do puzzles, do the action, fight the bosses, and then go to the next level. And so, because it has an overworld thing like that, with a map that you just pick the levels from, it's actually an interesting change to the whole Zelda formula. There's a lot of items you're going to recognize, too, which is a lot of them are just taken from other games. Visually, it looks, like Four Swords, but a lot like A Link to the Past as well. Just a lot, it's just a lot prettier, and it looks really, really nice. It kind of looks like everything's been done in, crayon almost. It's really, really pretty to look at. And the graphics actually change. Even if you're playing single player and you go into, a cave, it'll bring up the Game Boy Advance version of how it would look on the screen. And that's also interesting to see how it looks there, and the differences, what it would look like if you did have your Game Boy Advance hooked up to it. So that was cool. I think that was a nice little touch. And it is really, really interesting solving puzzles with the 4 different characters. Well, I don't know, there's not a lot more to say. I mean, it is pretty simple and straightforward. You just, go along with each level, fight the enemies, solve the puzzles, defeat the bosses, and then eventually you're going to get to the end. There are these, fairies that you can collect that will completely heal you if you die, so that you don't get a game over and have to start that part over. And I think they're more, for, the multiplayer plays. If you go down, you collect a fairy and everything, you'll come back up. But from what I saw, because I was playing by myself, I had a shit ton of them, and I never was really gonna die. And it's, I don't know, fighting bosses was cool, solving puzzles was cool, and having to control either one of the characters at a time or control all of them in formations, that was really interesting. Doing some of the color stuff was an interesting take on it as well. And there's a lot of fun to be had, especially if you just want a more casual pick up and play type of Zelda game. It's a nice bite-sized kind of idea for it. So it definitely is fun, but it has the problems. Like I said, it's either easier or harder to do certain things depending on if you're playing single player or multiplayer. In single player, you can solve puzzles at your own pace. You can try to figure it out with trial and error and doing different things, because it's just you making all the decisions. You can also have more control over the boss fights, because you know where everyone's going to be positioned. You can count on them being in certain spots. And in multiplayer, you're kind of counting on your friends to not fuck you over or screw around or mess up. And I can see where it would be a lot easier to fight bosses multiplayer, because you could have them all spread out in different spots, and it could be more opportune, and you have better formations, that way, instead of being stuck to the few default formations that you can do by yourself. At the same time, everyone has to play their part, so it could be pretty frustrating, too. But then again, it's not super hard, because it's geared towards multiplayer, and if it was too hard, you would be, knocking off a lot of people that'd be able to be accessible to it. Also, it's totally fucking stupid that you need to have that connector to play it multiplayer anyway. They should have maybe fixed that to somehow work without it, and make it just be a nice perk. I don't know. Maybe just make it so that whenever you go into a cave or a new area, as the main player, that everyone has to go in there, or make everyone able to advance the screens like that. I don't know. It just feels like it was kind of a cheap gimmick to get people to buy the connector for the Game Boy Advance to GameCube cord thing. It feels dumb. And I don't know. I mean, I do. It's a little repetitive. I do like the puzzles and stuff. I don't like doing the puzzles by yourself also takes a lot longer to do, because you have to position everyone perfectly and everything. It's also a thing where, if you get an item, a secondary item, if you're playing multiplayer, each player can have their own different secondary item, which can give you a lot more variety in how you tackle situations. But in single player, when you pick up an item, all 4 of your links just get that item. So, you're stuck using that one item until you pick up a different one within a different link. So that can be a pretty frustrating thing to deal with. Makes for better puzzles, but it also makes for less variety by yourself. And again, trying to push you to get the multiplayer experience. But like I was saying with the puzzles, is that the color-based stuff, which also went into some of the boss fights as well, really annoyed me just because I had trouble telling the difference between the blue and the purple Link, because I'm not good with colors. So both of those usually look the same to me, and it was really hard to tell which one I was supposed to use in certain spots. So that was annoying as well. Overall, I guess, though, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of complaints about it, except that if you're looking for a real Zelda game, this isn't going to satisfy. It has some cool Zelda puzzles and some Zelda combat, but it doesn't have much of the Zelda exploration. There's some there, but there's not a lot. And there's no real progressing through and like getting stronger and all that. It doesn't really feel like that. It's just bite-sized levels for you to go through. And, you know, it's fun. It's almost something I'd see... I don't know. It's just... It's okay. But it's just really, in the grand scheme of the design, it feels almost more like a Mario-style game than it does a Zelda one. Just that it happens to do Zelda stuff in it. Four Swords Adventures is pretty cool. If you can get your hands on it, you know, it's pretty nice. I would recommend it mostly for big Zelda fans, or people who, you know, want to get into Zelda but are worried about a time commitment, or if you just want to play with your friends. But, you know, that I can't really say just because of the connect. If you have all those connectors and Game Boy Advances and every fucking thing, go for it. But you probably won't. And that's the biggest barrier to entry to this game, is that you're probably, most likely, if you do get it, going to be playing it by yourself, especially now, since it's, you know, kind of old, relatively speaking, in the game industry. It's not bad, it's just, you know, it's not one of the Zelda games you're going to be going back to a bunch of times that you're going to be going to first. It's more for bite-sized play, and, you know, if you don't have a lot of time, but you still want to sink your teeth into something Zelda, it's definitely a nice addition to a Zelda collection. And, you know, I just kind of feel weird because no one talks about it. And I think it's because not a lot of people had it, or not a lot of people were able to even really take advantage of the 4-player capability. So, maybe that's it. But I at least figured I should talk about it because I did have it, I did play through it, and I beat it. And it's a fun game. It's definitely fun. I enjoyed it. I'd probably play it again. But it's definitely not, you know, a top-tier Zelda game. It's just not... It's nowhere near the pinnacle of what you think of when you think of Zelda, so just keep that in mind, and, you know, stick around for the rest of Zelda month, because we got more stuff to talk about, you know, and I hope that, you know, you guys liked it. Also, if you, again, you can check the written review in the link in the description, but if you guys have played Four Swords Adventures, tell me what you thought about it in the comments, because I'm really curious to see if anyone even fucking played it. Really, really curious, and, I guess just see you for the rest of Zelda month. Alright. See you later.